Hey, love, but Roslynn back at you one more again. I'm not going to do, the intro and just get straight to the situation because you probably already seen the title to my video. Is called The Trauma of My Traumatic Story That Led Me to My Purpose. I just wanted to get straight to it. I don't want to, prolong it with the introduction, but just be able to talk about it. This is something I've been led to talk about for a while. I chose to not speak on it because of the situations at hand, on how sensitive it is, and how, I had to deal with a lot of different things in my life where I got a lot of backlash because of my truth, because of my situation. But this video is not to seek any attention or sympathy or being seen as a victim, but just for me to be able to share my experience with you, to be bold in my own truth. You don't never know how strong you have to be until that's all you can be able to rely on. Being able to tell people, life is hard. Life is also short, and we should never take that for granted. No matter what situations that's been placed on our lives, we don't have control about the deck of cards that we have been led to have, but we have to be able to play those cards the best way we know how. And just being able to know you can conquer anything into your life. It may take time. It may put you in your ups, may put you in your downs. It can have you in a whirlwind of emotions. But at the end of the day, it carries purpose. A lot of times when things are directed into our lives that has really impacted us in a way that was very traumatic, that carried heavy, harsh, moments of being traumatized. It can really, you're really trying to understand where can you go from there? How can you go from there? But my truth is, I've spoke on this when I first started, almost close to 5.5 years ago. I've been doing videos that led me from my experience of wanting to connect with my family, wanting to know them, and get closure after my father passed away. There's a few people here on my channel that has been with me since day one. And before I start, I want to tell you thank you. You knew my situation, and you never placed judgment. It was hard for a lot of people to digest, but it was just a blessing that people knew my story, and the ones that stuck by me didn't have any hidden agendas, didn't want to place harm on my life like others have, but just support me in my cause, because my experience of what I went through has really helped a lot of people, and it continues to help me as well. Being able to open up about my life is not easy, for the things that I've gone through because of what others have known, what others have seen, didn't want to believe, or make me sound like I was crazy. But basically, what led me to my truth is after my father passed away, and my father is Prince Rogers Nelson. Him and my mom were high school sweethearts. They were supposed to get married right before my dad got on to his record label. But it just so happened that right exactly on the day I was born, the exact day he was supposed to sign his, contract to start making music, it fell through. And for that, I had to be given up for adoption. My dad hasn't seen me since I was 3 days old. And it's been hard every day that I have to deal with this situation. There's times where I feel like I can't make it. There's times that I wanted to end my life, for what I went through, because the pain was so great. And it was a situation where I had no friends or family to turn to. Others in my life that I felt that, was supposed to protect me and supposed to love me, was the main culprit of either trying to help me in my life or take me out. Family from both sides. My adopted father and his wife is also my father's siblings. There's some that knew about me and did not want me to come out. They didn't want my truth to come out. And it was very hurtful, very detrimental to me in my life. And it put me through a whirlwind of mental breakdowns. And, I didn't want to live anymore. It was always to that point where, you lose a parent. That's the worst thing for anybody to go through, because your grief doesn't have an expiration date to it. Everybody deals with their grief different. You have to be able to come accepted of a lot of things that has taken place in your life that you have to accept. And you have to allow yourself to know that whatever is taking place in your life, it doesn't define you. A lot of people didn't, believe me at first, because there was like, well, it's out there that he had no children. But if people really listen to his music, not hear his music, but listen to it, he speaks of a daughter a lot, and I'm blessed that, even though I never got to see closure of, just being able to physically connect with him within spirit, God used this as my purpose to help a lot of other people. Why try to help myself? It was hard because I didn't know he was my dad until after he passed away. There's a lot of different things that came to mind. It was a spiritual awakening that led me to that truth. And it was hard for me to digest because it was just like, why am I knowing about this now? Why is it just coming up now? And universe said, you're going to come to know that you knew this whole time and you just didn't really know. I have made different videos where I talked about different situations of me and my dad. He stayed in and out of my life. If it was up to him, he wouldn't have been out of my life. It would have been more into it, connected with me the way he should have. But other people chose to use him against me. It was told that, I was angry and ashamed of my dad because he gave me up. And it was said to my mom as well. But that wasn't the truth. Family used that situation for their own personal gain. They lived off my dad's trust fund that he had set up for me to live a good life, live a comfortable life, as me and my children lived in poverty, worrying about where would I get my last dollar from, get my next dollar from, how would I be able to feed my children, how can I pay rent, because there's places I got to get evicted of, cars I've lost, and there's a lot of different things, criminal-minded, that I had to be able to do just to make sure me and my children survived. And as for me telling you, my experience is to seek any kind of attention, sympathy, not being seen as a victim, not to trash talk my family, but just to be able to speak on the truth. A lot of people are like, well, he doesn't have any children. Amir, my brother, with my dad's ex-wife, Maite, was the only one, but that wasn't true. I came before my dad got famous, so there was no way people would know. But there was certain people in my dad's family that knew about me. People keep thinking that my dad didn't have a will. He did. He left me everything. And for that, my dad's siblings made sure that I never got home. They made sure they did anything and everything to make sure I never stepped foot anywhere near anything my dad has left me, because they know if that came out, they don't get anything. And it took me a while for me to have to be able to digest that. It hurt me. I've lost a lot of friends and family for this situation. I've been seen as the bad guy, to cover up lies and deception. Being able to have to come to terms that, even through my bad choices, it's not about saying all that I'm leaving on my adopted dad as well as my stepmom for everything that I went through. But I take responsibility on my own choices, on the things that I chose to do. Being in that situation, I found out I was adopted on my birthday, on 13th birthday. I already knew I was, but that didn't come out the truth until my 14th birthday. And I was treated very harshly my mom's ex-husband. I don't never call him my father anymore, because of the situation. My adopted mother, she loved me dearly. She did what she could. But that situation ran her to a grave because they tried to make sure that didn't come out. Um, and being able to have to deal with that on a daily basis has been very hard. There's a lot of people that have known about my situation that see me go through my worst of my worst when I first started my videos, because I became, dealing with things and self-medicating with marijuana, opiates, antidepressants, painkillers, and stuff like that. Having to deal with that, and it's something that's not easy to really talk about, because it was just like, why did I not know this? Why is it just coming out now? Why did I have to find out this way? And, it was led to me that actually it's been around you. You just didn't know it. Because my dad stayed in contact with me a lot. I used to speak to him and we became very close. But it was the only way he can stay in communication with me, unless he had lied and said he was my uncle, a family friend that just so happened to work with Prince. And, just being able to have my dad in my life, remembering the memories of, our talks and our laughs and our sadness and our cries, is something I have to cherish. Going through this is, words can't even define what I go through, because I'm trying to make sure I use discernment and being mindful, because I don't want to be talking about the people involved in this situation that tries to block me from everything is being seen in a bad light. It's just people make poor choices. People live in pain. People live in, envy and jealousy. And for that, my life has been put in danger a lot of times. People, keep on saying constantly, he doesn't have any children. It should be so easy for you to come out. But you have to understand, if people are only more focused on materialistic things than actually a family coming together to meet the ones that you haven't known, there's a lot of people who pick money over the people that's involved in that. I was my dad's descendant. I'm an heir. People always wonder, how, if he's so paranoid and, he cared so much about his things, why did he ever not leave a will? Actually there was a will. Mainly there was a few of them, and just so happened to not be surfaced from, by convenience. If anybody really listens to my dad's music, you'll hear him talking about his will in a few songs. And these things that I had to really allow myself to really face. And it was hard for me to accept, because I lived in rage. I wanted to retaliate. I wanted to take justice and carry on my own vendetta to give people what they gave me. But I had to allow myself to get out of that moment, because it's just like, if I take somebody's life, or if I add pain to somebody's life, that's allowing me to give my power over to the people that hurt me. And, every day I have to forgive them for that, because it took me back to different times where, I struggled a lot with my children. I tell people I don't feel shameful for the things that I've done. It is, in a way, really embarrassing because of the poor choices I made. But I was that mother that was determined to make sure that I can survive, as well as my children. This situation has torn my life apart to where I don't talk to my kids anymore. People have placed different things on my life to make sure I stay in suffering. And this situation was used for me to help other people. And I used to constantly ask universe, how can I help other people when I can't help myself? How can I tell people certain things about living life and overcoming things when I still struggle with my pain? Not being able to speak about your father, but there's so many other people that can. people that said that they loved him. But when they found out I was his daughter, they did harmful things to me. But through all that, I have to be appreciative of it. I had to appreciate it, the good and the bad situations that has taken place. My mom, before she passed, she told me, when you find out this situation is going to cause you gain a lot of enemies. There's going to be a lot of people that are not wanting to no longer connect with you when they find out who you're related to. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to place harm on you because of who you're related to. Meeting some certain people in my dad's connection that did harshest things to me, just to save face with themselves or being seen as a victim. People that I admired, people that I looked up to, that I've met. But I had to also allow myself to forgive that as well, because I don't know what was behind closed doors when they had to deal with certain things when it came to my dad. There's a lot of people that ask me, if you talk to your dad so much, have you ever, seen his interviews, see how he talks? And I would tell him, yeah, I did. There would be different times where I would see him and I would burst out in tears and didn't know why. Different things would take place where I knew certain questions were asked and his mannerism will change when it was me that he was talking about. And different things that I had to deal with growing up because of that situation with him, to where I had very bad night terrors, a lot about him, and it was guiding towards my truth, to the point where, I wasn't sleeping at long periods of time. And if I wake up out of my night terrors, I would end up using the bathroom on myself. And that's how traumatic it was. So they took me, my mom's ex-husband and his wife took me to the therapist so they can put me under hypnosis to make sure I never thought about my dad. I never mentioned him again, because it was about to tell out the truth that they didn't want me to know. Because my dad did everything to make sure that he could be in my life, and they made sure they stood in the way of that. They would use money to get for him to be able to communicate, but still kept him away. So there's a lot of people that just really couldn't understand my situation. I said, you have to understand, when people want to keep lies and stay lies without the truth coming up, they will do any and everything. They will go drastic measures to make sure that truth didn't come out for me. So for that, I wasn't able to think about my dad. I didn't really know it would be things that they would mention about him, just to see if my hypnosis was still taking place for that. They overheard the different techniques that the therapist did for me to forget about my dad and forget about different situations they put me through. And they allowed me they did those different techniques on me as well, to make sure anything that belonged to my dad, anything was said about my dad, I wouldn't really know. And, that was the most crazy experience that I've had, because people that knew my stories like, Roslynn, this can be like a Lifetime movie. And I would laugh, and I'm like, yeah, it actually is. It can seem crazy, but it was true. And after he passed away, all those memories came back, along with the abuse of what I went through with my mom's ex-husband, because anything I emulated with my dad. If I can sing, I would get threatened to make sure I didn't sing certain songs that he knew that my dad dedicated to me. Or if I tried to play piano, my fingers almost got broken, just because I learned how to play certain songs, especially Purple Rain. Purple Rain is about me and him. And I was punished for a lot of those things. When I lost a lot of weight, I look exactly like my dad. And it's like certain times, and it's hard for me to even look in the mirror, because it's like I didn't see me, I saw my dad. And that was the most harmful thing for me to go through, longing for that closure, longing for me to be able to know my truth. And, it wasn't an easy situation to know that your family, your so-called family, use you as a pawn to make sure that they live comfortable and they continue to live comfortable, while you and your children went through a lot of different things in life, and struggled a long time because of that situation. So when that truth came out, I tried to end my life, because I felt guilty about not meeting him, not knowing him. And there were certain things that I couldn't digest that concept of going through in my life to be able to grasp that concept of truth with me dealing with that. So every day I have to deal with this, especially when it comes to his anniversary, his birthday. It gets to that point where it feels like my heart has been ripped out. I've been being able to feel like from an experience of me being violated in the worst kind of way. A big part of me that was gone. And then knowing the fact that he's been in my life on and off, because he really reached bounds to stay in my life. But my mom's ex-husband tried to make sure that didn't happen unless he can profit off of it. And, people were like, if he left you the will, why don't you just go home? Because you have to understand, your siblings is left in line for a lot of money, a lot of property and different things that he had that was, 3D based, materialistic type things that you will do anything and everything to make sure those descendants doesn't come out, because if they do, you're entitled to nothing. So it's not easy for you to speak your truth when so many people try to make sure it doesn't come out, legally, people that are tight knit with him, they know about me. And this is what led me to my truth on being able to help others, because I was just like, with this situation, how can I help anybody? I can't even help myself. There's days that I've cried. There's days that, not having family because, they made sure that nobody was there to support me, because they knew if anybody would help me, they lose out on a lot of money. And, I had to come to forgiveness for my mom's ex-husband for what he has done, to me. And it's hard to do that, when you've been abused your whole life by a person, because of the fact is that you actually had a father that loved you and he didn't. My adopted father didn't. He went through a lot of abuse growing up, and so did his wife. So for a person, a parent, to be able to love their own child and would do anything for it, they made sure they tortured him for that, and it placed it put me in a lot of harm's way with people that I trusted, people that I've done, a lot of things for. They tried to make sure they can get a piece of the cut by trying to take me out. And for that, I had to be able to forgive as well. There's a lot of times where, I ask God, why did I have to go through this? Why did I have to be able to deal with this? It's hard. I can't never escape my dad, because my dad's everywhere. I can't express myself on certain times in my life because it would have been very harmful for me in my life, because there's a lot of people that still watch me because of that situation. There's a lot of people that want people to intervene on my life in dark ways. So I had to be able to allow myself to not worry about what people have placed on my life, not worry about the opinions of others, of what they felt that wasn't true and wasn't, it doesn't change my experience of what I had to deal with. There is not going to change the things that I have to deal with every day. I would get angry when people would say, I can imagine what you go through. And I used to get very angry by that. And I'm like, no, you don't. You don't know what that feels like, to have a parent that, everybody else has their opinion, but you're denied of your own truth because of that. Dealing with this situation has been very traumatic to me. I still go through it. I still go through spells of depression where I'm in toxic environments because people making sure that I don't ever step foot into Minnesota. And it is at that point where God had left me to really come into terms is just to allow yourself to know, even though this has happened to me, it wasn't having nothing to do with me. It was about the people I was going to connect with later down the road. I used to have very bad, like the night terrors I'm telling you about, was preparing me for this moment, that I was going to have to go through the most darkest things. And I'm going to have to go through a lot of that alone. There are going to be people that are going to appreciate me for having courage and strength just for me to speak on a situation, because it's not easy. I, I've had people that really truly love my dad, but sent me death threats, and I had to laugh, like, that means you don't love my dad. If you love my dad, it's going to be unconditional. You're going to love him no matter what is attached to him, and wanting to be able to create experience to be able to know my family. I have to grasp the concept is that they don't want to know me. They don't like me. They don't like my existence. And they're very angry about that, and people were like, well, where's the wills at if you're talking about that? It's been destroyed. Because if it's destroyed, the certain people, the right people have it, but they're not making the decisions on doing what's right. They want to see how they can profit off of it. And the right people know about me. The right people knows about my situation, but they choose to reap their own personal benefits out of their greed. But I had to allow myself to really, stand firm with myself. I had to get very aggressive with myself, because I have good days. There's a lot of times I see this experience as being, even though it's very traumatic, I'm very grateful for it, because it allowed me to find myself, my true self. It allowed me to see my determination on staying powerful, even during my weakest moments. Allowing myself to not worry about what people have placed on me, what kind of voodoo they put on me, what kind of death threats that I have, because God is protecting me. My family is protecting me. My dad is, protecting me, as well as my grandparents and, other people that I've lost along the way, and they're helping me every day to be able to stand firm with myself. I have to hold on to faith of, that this too shall pass, using your situation to be able to show others that, I went through this. I still am going through this. And I had to allow myself to really get in tune with my power, my strength. I become better friends with myself, best friends with myself in every way. Placing love in myself that was hard for me to do, being able to stay focused on that change within my life, on intense events in my life, to be able to not fear, what others try to do to me. And what we go through on a daily basis is not easy. There's a lot of people that have went through a lot of traumatic things that has really harmed their growth within life, that they're still trying to seek peace with. And you have to stay very determined about that. There's days I don't want to be bothered. There's days that I hate the world. There's days that I hate the people that have put me in this situation. There's times where how can you sleep at night knowing that a person deserves to know their family, a person they deserve to know their truth about themselves. They have every right to have closure, but people choose to use their selfishness to make sure that didn't happen. There's a lot of times people here, or as well as in the physical, has told me how strong I am. It's very brave for you to have to be able to tell somebody that, people are like, people are going to think you're crazy. And I said, look, I say I get very straight to the point. I have my receipts. Truth is always a lot stranger than fiction. I added pieces to the puzzle of people that work very closely to my dad, because a lot of things people think he does is very weird, is very out there. And it's just the fact is because you don't know the whole story. You don't know what great lengths my dad would do to try to get me home. He spoke of different songs that he's placed out for me, Computer Blue, Paisley Park, Way Back Home. I would die for you. Be my mirror. 7. And, Baby from his first album. He dedicated both of his albums to me. And he spoke a lot of truth that he was hoping I could hear, but I was banned it from even listening to his music. My mom had to sneak for me to be able to watch it. And, those are the things that I have to be able to hold close to my heart about my dad. He helps me every day. He's not a perfect person, but he has did a lot of amazing things. And I'm so proud of him for all the things that he has done. My dad wasn't perfect. A lot of people have to deal with a lot of things. I would get angry when I had heard how people that supposed to loved him the most would talk very ill will about him when he has no way of defending himself. And I would always hear him in my ear, that you can't stop what other people say. Everybody has a different view of you because they have different experiences with you. A lot of different things is taking place. Here God allowed me to make different videos where me and him had sung together on my videos, and did Someplace Here on Earth, and that meant a lot to me. Different songs that I was able to put on my channel to be able to tell the backstory to different songs that he is projected, he is made through his own experience of life. He didn't have a very good upbringing. He didn't have a very good adult life. And going through those things, it really was very traumatic to me, especially not being able to know who's responsible behind him getting the synthetic medicine, having to see his body being publicized. A child shouldn't have to see those different things about their father. That shouldn't be the last memories that you have. And that's why I tell a lot of people, you go through a lot of things in life. There's going to be different days that you doubt your faith. You don't believe in yourself. You don't believe in God. You're wondering where God is through all the harshness that you go through in life. You're trying to do the best thing that you can possibly do by seeing everything from a positive perspective. But there's moments in your life that it's hard for you to actually swallow that as being a positive perspective in your life. Being able to have to accept that you were punished for certain things that was just out of your control. Wanting to disfigure myself so I wouldn't see my dad in my face, and going through different things like that in my life, and I had to allow myself to love myself in every way. The situation, I've gone through a major weight gain of, emotional eating, of the situation. Went through a lot of self-harm, when you had to go through these different things. Having premonitions about your dad, trying to save your dad, before his death hit, and having to grasp all that has taken place in my life. Like I tell people that this experience is no easy road for us to go through. Nobody's situation is, especially if you go through something that was very heartbreaking, very tragic, very heavy in your life. There's a lot of people that are not here because of the pain that they have inflicted on them. There's times people have contemplating taking their life because of the things they had to really come to terms with. Being able to speak on this situation has been very hard. I didn't know how I was going to be able to say it because I wanted to be making sure that I didn't say anything in a negative way about the people that, that kept me away from him. Different things I had to be able to come to terms with because where I stay at, he's come back and forth to see me. He came to see me on his last concert that he had at the Fox Theater in Atlanta. And I talked to him 2 days before he passed. And it was, hearing his voice was very heartbreaking. I didn't even know who I was talking to. And he wasn't well at all. And those different things, I felt guilt because I would have never allowed this situation to happen, or I had to allow myself to not hold that burden of guilt of him having to die alone. Going through these different things you have to go through a day-by-day basis on healing, being able to forgive the people that have placed so much ugliness and pain on you that had nothing to do with you, but it was just how they felt about themselves. Not allowing yourself to put your power into people that don't have power of their own lives. And it's not, regardless if they have power of their own lives, you still shouldn't give your power to anything in that matter. It's just showing and proving to people, just proving to yourself. It's not really proving to others, but proving to yourself that you can overcome any circumstance that will send your way to break you. It's not going to be an easy situation to get through overnight, but it takes time to have to do that. It takes patience, and I really haven't had that. Having a lot of dark moments in my life where I had to rely on strength, because that's pretty much all that I had. Other than God. There was a lot of times I questioned, how, if you love me, am I one of your children? How can you allow these people to do those things to me? How can you allow these people to keep me away from anything that emulated my dad? And he told me, you may not understand all the things that I'm putting you through, but you don't know what this experience can do to other people that are really looking for that salvation. You're trying to find a ladder. And it made a lot of sense at that time, because there's times I was just like, this is my dad. How can I be able to help other people when I'm not able to talk about this situation, because I did it a lot. But now it was at that point where I had to be in the right sound mind, in the right alignment of vibrations for me to speak on this without allowing myself to really talk heaviness of my past and not going into detail, because that's showing that I'm still allowing myself to put that power over the abuse that I went through in my life. Things that tried to make me end my life, the people that tried to end my life, and have to be able to do that, and it hasn't been easy. I had to be able to gain strength to know that I have a mom out there. It was just a blessing for me to actually know what she looks like and know that I have brothers and sisters. But I never reached out to them because I knew she didn't tell my siblings about that, because it was something that it was very hard for her to come to terms with, because I was giving up. She was 16, and I love my mom dearly, but it had to come to that point because I looked so much like my dad. It was something she couldn't deal with. And I had to be able to accept that and respect that. There's times where I lose hope on a lot of things because I see how hard the enemy tries to hurt me in every way. The enemy wants me to end my life, end everything that attached to him for other people's financial gain. But God allowed me to look at these situations and see how far I've come because of this situation. And there's not a lot of people that can be able to say they can deal with a situation like that and doesn't end badly. I've seen where people have went through less and took out their parents, took out their family, took out their life. But yet I did neither one, because God told me my purpose is different. You're going to use your pain. You're going to use your trauma, your experience to be able to allow yourself to heal in ways you've never seen. I'm going to expose the worst of the worst to you and still show you this is my love to you. Even though it may not feel that way to me, that was my love that he gave me, to be able to know this situation is not going to take me out. You know, even though I had an emotional breakdown, I wasn't a broken person. I can bend, you know, I was in obtuse angles for those situations. You know, I always tell people you're not broken, you know, but the broken part of you is the things that you've learned. You have to unlearn the things that was programmed to you to fear, to limit yourself. You had to allow yourself to not have fear, but use fierceness. You use that fuel of fierceness, you know, allowing yourself to know you're not a victim of anything. These situations that you have been placed to overcome, these are the things that were sent to destroy you. But God is using your experience to glorify what he can do. Because there's a lot of times we feel like God doesn't exist, and we see it through things that are very impossible that he made possible, you know. And it was at that time where, you know, I would ask God, you know, why can't I talk about this? And it was like you weren't in your right vibration too. You still held on to anger. You didn't forgive anybody. I had to forgive myself first. I had to forgive myself first before I can forgive them. You know, if I didn't, I became the people that hurt me. You know, I don't mock the enemy that has did everything they could to break me down. They have done everything up under the sun to me. But yet God made sure I was protected. You know, he didn't want me to worry about what other people thought of my situation, if they believed it or didn't believe it. You know, people wanted to second guess, and all I had to do is just push a picture with me and him next to him. I'm just a female version of him. You know, I'm going to use one of my thumbnails for this video so you can see it. It's not about proving my point or my truth. I know my truth is my truth, no matter if it was heard or it is heard. You know, not if people believe or don't believe, you know, but just being able to know that doesn't change what I went through. You know, it doesn't change my circumstances, you know. It's still, but let me allow myself, it's not still, but it was a very hard struggle to go through this, leading me to recognize who I am within, you know. And like I tell people, I'm very transparent. I allow myself to speak on the things that I want to choose. I choose to speak on, because there's a lot of different things that's really irrelevant, that's not meant for me to talk about, because I had to make peace with that. So, you know, going through this situation, I was enraged. I wanted to make sure that my dad's siblings went to jail, get the worst kind of worse, you know, for what they have done, as well as, you know, my mom's ex-husband, as well as his wife, you know. I had anger that my dad constantly came here to see me in the state that I'm in. And it was every excuse to say, oh, you know, you're going to meet her today. And the next thing you know, right before I come over, or a few hours before I come over, there was always a fight. You know, there was always extra things, you know, that happened, or, you know, security was really beefed up from when my dad came, because they knew if that truth came out, it wasn't going to be pretty, you know. But I had to allow myself, you know, people in my connection, people that I loved, you know, is doing everything they possibly can to make sure I never step foot in my dad's existence in that way. But just being able to know, you know, whatever's for you is going to be for you. You know, nobody can't take that away. People's evil doings that has taken place in your life, where you feel like God has allowed them to get, you know, he didn't retaliate for what they did. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. You know, I got the enemy, and I understand the enemy in my house, and for him to be connected to that situation, I had to allow myself to face that, you know. And a lot of people, you know, if it even said by Rumi, you know, you can't heal where you've been hurt at, but God shows you. He will put you in the midst of everything, in the midst of every enemy in the book, and being able to show you, I'm going to give you that strength. I'm going to have you educated. I'm going to allow you to go in different directions, that you could be that person, you know, the experience, I think it was Judah, that was around the lions in that lion's den. And it was like he had to hold faith that God wouldn't allow those lions to kill him. And that's what God did with me with my situation. I was always, from this moment it first started with me, always wanting to seek validation through other people for them to believe me, telling my story. I did an adoption story about my situation, I think a couple of years ago, or even when I started my videos, my intro, it talked about the same thing. And this was used as a purpose to be able to help so many people, because there's so many things that people have gone through and people can't grasp the concept or why certain people are the way they are. Why do they have trust issues? Why is it hard to let people in? Why is it that you project things towards people that don't have anything to do with them? And it could be, everything could be taken away from you. And you can still stand strong for that if you make that choice too. Even when you make that choice to stand firm in what you believe in, and know whatever is yours that you want and desire into your life, that is going to impact your life in a huge way, but not just you, but other people, your gifts or whatever that you're going through to heal, you're helping others as well. You don't know who is watching you that be inspired by your situation, and it's just the road that we're leading. You're going to have your ups and downs. You're going to be angry with God. I don't have my choice words with him, and I had to allow myself to seek forgiveness for that, because I would get so angry. It's just like, why am I pushing out so much positivity when I don't get that back? And it was just like, you do through those tragedies is your blessing in disguise, because it's showing you can live in a household with people that try to take you out, and yet you're still here. There are going to be people that's going to try to trigger you in every way, shape, form, or fashion. Anything that they know is a weakness, and they're going to use it against you. That'll eventually die off and break. A lot of times we're placed in the midst of a storm with a lot of things that can really question our own existence. But you become that power that emulates that storm to say, you can put all you want to on me. If this is what God has a purpose for, to allow me to be that person that you cannot mess with, that's going to happen with him. There's days that I didn't have patience, where I cried a lot, where I seen other people united with their family, and I never got that chance to. You just get angry about that. But I had to allow myself to congratulate other people on their blessings when they're reuniting with their family or spending holidays with their family, because that's just like me. Their blessing is my blessing. That knows, if I can bless you, if I can bless them, what makes you think I can't do that for you? A lot of times we practice and rehearse our pain more than we rehearse our fear. Our faith, our faith in God, our higher connection with God, putting God first. And it's hard to do that when there's so many different things that's happening to you at one time. And to be able to do this and be in that sound mind, it's not easy, but it's just that I'm at that point in my life where, I go through different moments that is very, very heavy for me, very hard to be able to digest and really, truly try to understand, where does my life start, and it's just like, I'm at that point where I'm starting a new version of me, being able to appreciate who I was, being able to never forget, where I came from, no matter who I'm related to, whose child I am. And it's just to stay humble and grateful. And a lot of times it's hard for me to stay grateful when I see the ugliness that people can do to me because of this situation. There's a lot of people like, oh, shoot, that's cool. Prince is amazing. And it's like, at one point it was, I'm never going to be ashamed of whose daughter I am. It's not to rub in anybody's face, because I'm very proud of my dad on everything he's done, no matter what he has done to other people, and not saying that it was okay to do that, but a lot of people have their ups and downs. A lot of people move through pain and insecurities in different ways, but I never placed that judgment on my dad. I love him to the fullest. I would never stop loving him, never stop having loyalty to him. As anybody who talks bad about him, I put them in their place. And there are sometimes I have to just walk off because it's not worth that. So it's just telling this situation is really, it's giving me that courage to really speak out. And it's just, like I said before, it's not about sympathy, or wanting to seek attention because of this situation for what it is, but just being able to tell you my story and express my feelings of what I felt, what I still feel, that is taking place. You have strength. And a lot of times the things that you face, oh my God, a lot of things that you have to face shows where your power truly is within yourself. And being able to understand, even, just even have to just have trust and faith in God, even when you don't understand the circumstances that he's placing you in, because I used to tell people, I make me not want to do good for others because I got so much bullshit back, excuse my language, but it felt that way. But I had to come to that point where I got out of my feelings and say, even though this is very traumatic and maybe hard for you to still, even gain clarity from that, even though all the people that you have helped because of the situation, how people turn their back and stab me in the worst kind of way, that was my blessing to say what they did and how they acted towards me never defined me, never allow myself to regret the blessings I did for other people. I can't control how people do me, but I can control how I deal with it. I keep people at a distance, at a lot of length, but it took me a long time not to be angry with people when they did that, or the different things that they try to do to break me down, block me in any kind of way, and I still appreciate them. And it took me a long time to be able to put that in a sense, people that hated on me or people that were just straight evil and projected on me, and being a person that says, I still pray for those people because they are still going through their midst of tragedy. Like I said, everybody deals with pain differently. Everybody moves through pain differently. But I had to choose to be able to allow myself to be that person of power, to be able to allow myself to say, no matter what has taken place, what I've experienced, this is going to hold a purpose on a huge turnaround, a huge transition that I never seen possible. And for that situation, I'm grateful for it. There's a lot of things that I used to speak in anger that I regretted, stressed out about missed opportunities, what if type situation. And there's a lot of times I can't, I had to be able to allow myself to really accept that, being able to allow myself to forgive the people that are still trying to plot on my life, putting a bounty over my head. And the people that took advantage of me and my dad financially, that kept me away from him. And that takes a lot of strength because that's not easy to do. It really isn't easy to do because there's a lot of people that knew my situation. They were like, girl, you're better than me, because it would have been in and out situation, Scarface situation. And I tell people, honestly, I ain't gonna lie. I was going to do it. I really was. And I have no reason to be lying about that. But it was like at that point, I've started feeling that rage is like death is too good for you. You seek validation through other people. And that is going to be a lot. People don't realize when you seek validation through other people and you place people in the most detrimental things, that's going to, have a boomerang of something harsher than you placed on that person. And from this situation, I had to allow myself to say, I don't want them to go to jail. I don't want to press charges. Whatever, judgment of God does, I have to allow myself to step past that and allow me to work on me and not worry about what God has in store for them, and that takes a lot, especially when you hear different things and you hear the lies when I know that they're lying. There's a lot of people that knew. He was like, Prince did not die and didn't leave a will because he did, And it was just a fact what people will do and destroy to make sure that they can keep things that he didn't even leave. And people are like, well, why would they want to kill you? I have to understand, my dad left everything in my name. And the only way you can be entitled to it is if I die. That's the only way. They can't touch anything, And I tell people, if you notice that you hear about the heirs, but have you heard the heirs gaining the whole estate yet? You don't really hear anything about my dad anymore, since this happened, and it was just hurtful to be able to see the truth in family. That is my biological family. But it's not about poking blame into them. I know what they've done. And I had to come into that acceptance. It's like, yes, they didn't care about you. They didn't care about their brother. It was just about what he represented, what he stood for, what he was, and that was something they weren't. And they envied him for that. And they see him like they see me. And it was something that, I had heavy depression off of that, I looked at my mom's ex-husband and knew that my life it didn't matter to him. Neither did my children. They didn't like being around me and my children because, my kids look like my grandmother and my grandmother's twin sister, as well as my youngest daughter looks just like my dad, as I look like him as well. Being on to speak on his behalf, my dad has helped me every day. He's my best friend. I love him more than words itself, they can do. And it's a beautiful thing that he left me music on how he felt about me, that gives me comfort. Sometimes it's hard to be able to listen to. But I had to be able to allow myself to really accept what it is and praying, that I know that God will allow me to find my truth within my truth. When I allowed myself to forgive myself, that's the only way I can forgive the people that placed me in this situation. It took a long time for me to say I didn't want to prosecute anymore. I don't want to bring up charges because they were already in their pain of prison. You can't put people in prison when they already put themselves there. And a lot of times we do that. We allow ourselves to stay in a cell and rehearse our pain on what people have done, what we missed out on, what other people have kept us away from, what people have violated us from. And we allowed ourselves to be defined as that. And not knowing, we stayed focused on that pain and didn't even realize that the cell we were in was never locked. All we had to do was just push open the door. That was our opportunity to do. And this is my opportunity to do now, But like I said, I wasn't able to talk about this until God seen fit, because he knew, when I allow you to talk about this, you don't have to worry about anybody trying to do anything to you, because I'm leading you to say this now. He has his times on why he wants to say it and when he wants me to say it. Until he knew that I was in that right sound mind, in that right frequency, in that right vibration for me to speak on it. And when I speak on it, it's not out of anger, it's not out of rage, not out of betrayal, because I'm allowing myself to project and say, yeah, I was in that point where I was willing to be that person that smiled in their mugshot because of what has happened to me. But it was just like, death is too good. I had to allow myself to forgive them and allow God to see what he can do, because he can do far more than what I have. And for me to think about my aunts and uncles, as well as my adopted father, I have to really thank them for what they did. Only thing I just regret is that I didn't get to know my dad in the physical sense. I didn't get that experience. But it's like my dad always protect me. My dad always thought of me. My dad loved me more than anything, and he's been so amazing to me. Like I said, he's my best friend. He helps me out daily to let me know I'm never walking alone. My mom, She felt a lot of guilt, and there's times that she hates to see what I've gone through, but she did everything she could for me to be in my mom and my dad's life, but other people had their own priorities, and we weren't it. So, whatever you're going through in your life, I hope this would help you, heal in the best way you can, to be able to know, it's not easy to forgive people. It's not easy to walk away from people that did everything in their power to try to destroy you, rip you to shreds. It's not easy to be able to hold positive perspectives when you're going through so many negative circumstances. It's hard for you to help other people when it's hard for you to even accept yourself and help yourself. So, there are going to be days that you're not going to be okay, and that's okay. And for me to be able to do this, it makes me feel more at peace, because there was so many different things that I wanted to speak on, but I wasn't in my right mind to be able to do that. I wasn't in my right vibration. Now I can talk about this and not be nervous, because at first I was nervous, because I'm really not trying to go into depth, because I just tell people, if you really want to know what I've gone through, watch my beginning videos. I was in a whole different place then. I might even, I was a whole different person. I was living through pain. I was living through self-medicating. I tell people a lot. I was high in my videos. I would smoke weed and get to know that, because I didn't know how to get to my higher self. I did not know how to connect to my spiritual me within myself, of knowing how to do different things, unless I got in tune with it through the herbal intake. So for me to be sober and clean for a long time from that, from medicine, as well as I don't drink. I've had, I smoke cigarettes every once in a while, every now and then, when I have to deal with different things in my life. But I had to allow myself to know, if I have to face this, I have to face this without medically, self-medicating myself, because it numbs a part of me. And you can't do that. You have to be able to feel everything that you have gone through. You have to be able to, understand everything that you're going through eventually. But you have to be able to allow yourself to not be complacent on what the past was. You have to be able to allow that past to be able to give you that purpose to keep moving. So, excuse me, but for me to be speaking on this, it wasn't easy to do. But I had to just allow myself to know, guys, like, this is that time. You can go ahead and speak on your story. You're in a much better headspace now. You're in a much better vibration. So whatever you're struggling with, it's not easy for you to allow yourself to break away from the things that's really, really hit you in a low point, because this is like my situation where I've been at my lowest, because I had nobody close to me that I've had support with. I don't talk bad about my children, even though the situation has ripped our relationship apart. And it was hard for them to grasp that their grandparents would do something like this to me or to them. But a lot of times they can see the truth in those situations. And it was hard for them to be able to accept that. So I have to accept that. I don't have any kind of communication with my family because of this situation. And it's been a hurtful situation, because it wasn't about the materialistic things. It was just about me knowing my truth and be able to do it. Who wouldn't want to live comfortable? But that's not all what this is about to me, because that was all what it was about to people that did everything they did to hurt me, to be able to able to get a cut. But it was just about me to be able to get that closure, being able to finally allow myself to be able to, even though I wasn't able to connect with my dad in the physical, but just come fully in tune with him in the spiritual. But God made sure that, me and my dad has that tight knit, since I'm blessed with being a person that is a conduit, as well as an anchor towards the spirit realm, being able to talk to the people that have passed on, and for those situations. And just to be able to help other people has led me through many motions, many days. And it's just like when I allow myself to really look at everything that I've really helped people through, whether or not they, they're still in my life, or whether they put me in harm's way, or, when times seemed fit and it was beneficial for them to be in my life for that, and walk away and still try to hurt me. I had to appreciate that too, because it allowed me to see how people can truly be. I had to really allow myself to digest and not take that personal towards people that was sent to me for me to help. It wasn't easy for me to allow people in my life. It still isn't, because it's just like, are you in my life because of who my dad is? Or are you in my life because you really admire what I do? And it's not even about feeding the ego or being arrogant or conceited, needing my head to be blown up on that, because it's hard for you to have friends and family around you when it comes to a situation like this. You lose a lot of people in your life, because they don't want to believe that. And I have to be able to accept that as well. So, going through this, you have to allow yourself to know you're going to go through different things in your life, but that doesn't mean just from what has happened, it has to stay that way. A lot of times, these happen to us for us to be able to find ourselves on what we have forgot. We're all in this life of breaking generational curses. We're breaking that codependency bond, that trauma bond, that narcissist bond, and everything like that. So no, be easy on yourself. You're working hard, even when you feel like giving up. Your soul's not going to allow you to do that, because this is your mission. This is what you have to do. You have to allow yourself to be that change that we want to see in the world. No matter what it is, allow yourself to be comfortable in your truth, even though it disturbs a lot of people's lives of ego. Even though people have done everything up under the sun to you, they continue to hurt you. They continue to count you out or doubt you within your existence. Every dog got his day. Allow your life to keep soaring. Allow yourself to keep helping other people that are needing your assistance. Universe and God is sending people towards your way all the time. Even when you don't understand your life, the connection between other people that are communicating and reciprocating, you're helping each other heal. You're helping each other grow, even if it's for a short period of time. Those people have placed in your life for them to learn off of you is you learning off of them. So whatever you're going through in life, if you got to take a break, do that. If you have to allow yourself to sit there and self-reflect, do that. But don't allow yourself to give up. You never know how close you are to your blessings, and you never want to live in life regret of what would have happened. You never know if it's if God's got you in all this craziness, or the devil has got you in this craziness. Know that that's going to lead you somewhere it was very unexpected. For you not giving up everything that you lost, everything was taken from you. It's going to magnify. It's going to multiply. It's going to intensify. So allow yourself to keep going. Allow yourself to just stay focused. Stay focused on what you need to do. There's going to be different days that you're just going to hate everything and everybody, and that's okay, because you're allowing yourself to really face your moments of emotions. You're allowing yourself to face the pain that you carry. You're trying your hardest to disconnect, from the situations that you have gone through in life. You're coming to terms to what people have done. Your situation has done. What they taught you about them is what it taught you about yourself. Whatever you have gone through, what other people have placed on you does not define you. You know what you define. You're finding your own beautiful. People put you in certain boxes. You're placing yourself in your own lane. You're not meant to be in a box. You're meant to stand out. You're meant to project. God placed you on this path for a lot of people, for you to learn from them and them learn from you. But it's going to take time. I have to tell myself that all the time. It's like, this too shall pass. Tears, crying to the point where my eyes are swelled shut and saying everything's going to be okay. Even though you may be feeling lonely, you're never alone. You know, anything that has been done to you in the most harshest way, when you have good intentions on moving forward, those are the blessings. Enemy doesn't win nothing. You know, they show you your potential by the things that they place on your life because they see your potential. They envy you for that. They hate you for that because they have something that can never be taken. Even though we place our anger on different people of what they've done and get angry at God for what they allowed for them to do, and not knowing the things that they have done to you is going to be that main thing that is going to help you bring yourself up in ways that you couldn't, because they fear you. Because they know if you get that opportunity, window of opportunity, you can use those experiences and bring out so many blessings, not just for you, but other people. So allow yourself to keep moving. If you got to take a break, do that. But don't allow yourself to give up. When things get hard, there's so many times I wanted to walk away from this situation. There's so many times I've cried when I said it's not fair. You know, there's so many times, I had to see other people, connecting with their family when mine was taken away from me. But I have to know everything is not what it seems. God's not finished with me yet. Whatever is for me is going to be for me. But like I said before, I'm not, placing this video out to place the people that have done these things to me. I'm not trying to make them being seen as in a bad light, but it's just me telling my truth. It is what it is. This situation has really showed me the harshness of how people see me in their lives. And I had to be my own priority when my life was just a wall for them to get towards things that, that it wasn't deserving or it wasn't belonging to them. So I really appreciate all those things that they have done to me, because it allowed me to go on a journey where I've met so many beautiful people here. I've had good experience and bad experience, but it just allowed me to be free. It's not easy for that, because of this situation is still ongoing. I don't have answers. I don't know who's being held responsible for the situation, but I had to be able to trust in God, even though I don't understand my situation, not to worry about my life being in danger, because I know God is not going to allow that to happen. So whatever you're going through, know you're protected. If anything comes in a connection with you, it's because it had a lesson behind that whole situation. Even when God and the devil place something on you and it feels like an avalanche is leading you towards something that you never can explain, into a certain point, it brings clarity in unexpected ways. So allow yourself to never give up on yourself, even when others gave up on you. So I hope you were able to, my experience to help you along your way. Whatever you're facing is only temporary. I have to tell myself that a lot. Allow yourself to use that as fuel to help other people, because whatever pain that you're going through, you don't want other people to feel that. There's so many people that are going out here that doubt you, that mock you. That was just that indication that they know you can do something big, and that's what they fear the most. They don't want you to discover those different things that they do. That's why they always try to block you and use your weaknesses against you. But allow yourself to know those situations that it's going to catapult you where it was supposed to tear you down. Even when people take front seats to your destination, is going to be your elevation. So don't forget that. Your enemy is going to have to compensate you in many ways. So don't ever feel like the enemy got the upper hand of you. If anybody has to try to control your life, you have to know they never had control of theirs. So I hope you were able to resonate with the content of this, y'all. I'm not going to say no negative comments, because I have to review my comments anyway. But please make sure your comments is very respectable. And so you'll see me when you see me. Much love to you. Peace. Be well.